Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our Tiffany Explores STEM Careers webinar. Tonight, we are going to be looking at computer science careers. But before we get to that, let me give you a little background of who we are. We are Palm Street Education Foundation, and what our mission statement says is that we create culturally competent learning materials and environments for K through 20 STEAM, civic, and workforce education using our characters, the multi-generational family known as the TurnUps. And you will see our characters on social media if you give us a follow at TurnUp, Turnout, Vote. Now, I want to introduce our speaker, but before we do that, Kiana Cogsdale, who is our social media manager, is going to give you a little background of how we came up with Tiffany TurnUp Explores STEM Careers.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Allison, for that wonderful introduction. So the reason how we got to this point was back during the pandemic, we actually had the opportunity to create COVID information content. And in the midst of COVID and the development of the COVID-19 vaccine, we started to look at Dr. Kizzy Corbett, who was a very big part of the development of the vaccine. And she's a Black woman. And so we were very inspired by that. And so we took to that with our character Tiffany, because she's the youngest of the family and she's very inquisitive and curious about things. So we decided to kind of do a spinoff after doing some research and learning about Dr. Kizzy's journey. And so we took that, Tiffany was very inspired and wanted to learn more about the other STEM occupations that were out there for her. And so that is how we got here. This is our second webinar. Last time we had a guest who got her degree in biology. And so we're just kind of taking a trip down the different STEM fields, because STEM has, different pathways within it. It's a very vast career field. So we're just going through the different components of STEM, talking to people who are working in the field and who have education and, educational background in STEM, just to find out more so that, we can help others get into the STEM field if they're interested, if they want to make a career change, or if they're just getting out there, young like Tiffany and is curious about what her career is going to look like. So that's just a little background on our STEM series.
Thank you, Kiana. That was excellent. So in the line of dynamic Black women who do STEM work, our guest tonight is Dr. Dale Marie Wilson. Now, I've known Dale Marie since she was a grad student. Maybe later we'll tell that story, but for now, she is currently a full teaching professor at the University of North Carolina, which is located in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she is in the College of Computing and Informatics. Her research interests focus on broadening participation in computing with a focus on Black students and addressing the structural challenges that are unique to them and may be best understood by others who have faced those challenges created by their intersectional identities. Her interests also include providing equitable access to computing, human-centered computing, virtual agents, and speech technologies. So in this webinar, she is going to share with us her journey to computer science. So Dr. Wilson, would you give us your origin story in computer science?
Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Clark. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. So I grew up in the beautiful Twin Island state of Trinidad and Tobago. I don't know if you probably hear my accent. And there, I stayed there until I was like 19 years old. So I did all of my foundational education in Trinidad. And we were, the last people that owned us, I like to say, were the British. And so we have a very heavy influence of the British. So our educational system mirrors a lot of the British educational system. But as a kid in Trinidad, if you were smart, you went into the sciences. So I did sciences and I liked children and I always wanted to be a doctor because I was quite ambitious, right? So I decided I'd be a pediatrician. Then I did biology. So we have two exams. One you take when you're like 16. That's called, back then was called O-levels or ordinary level exams that came from Cambridge. And then you had 2 more years of study and we would do an advanced level exam that came from Cambridge also, Cambridge University. So at O-levels, I did biology. And one of the components included a lab book that you had to keep up for 1 year. That was part of your overall grade. And you had to draw bones. Now, art has been the bane of my existence. Like I said, I'm an overachiever. And while I worked really hard at art just, I never got it. And drawing bones were so difficult for me. Looking at a bone and drawing it and then labeling it. My bones looked like cartoon characters or like stick figures, you probably can say. And so I started disliking biology at that point. So at the O-levels, you do 8 to 9 subjects. So I did stuff like English literature, you had to do a language. I did French, math, additional math, biology, chemistry, physics. So at the A level, which is 2 years later, you only do 3 subjects. And so there I did accounting, chemistry, and math. So then I migrated to the US and got into NYU, which is a really interesting story. Being an immigrant and having immigrated much older, so I didn't have to do high school in the US, I had no idea about how to go about the SATs. However, I had a younger sister and she was in high school. And so I told her, bring me home an SAT application. So I filled it out. And I think they still do, but back then the SATs would send your scores to 4 schools for you for free. So I picked 2 dream schools and 2 schools that I was pretty sure I could get in and try to afford. My dream schools were NYU and Columbia, because by the way, I migrated to New York. And my normal schools were Baruch College and Brooklyn College, all in the CUNY college system. So took the SATs. And then was going about the process of going to Baruch, because like I said, I did accounting and I love logic and accounting is very logical. So I thought maybe I'll go to Baruch, which is a business college, and follow up with accounting. Then I got a letter from NYU that said, thank you for sending us your SAT scores. Here's an application. Like, okay, wow. So like I said, I was in the process of, I got accepted into Baruch. I was just about to do the math placement test when I got the letter from NYU. And I was like, when you looked at the cost of NYU, which back then was $18,000 a year, and Baruch was $1,000 a year. Being an immigrant, $1,000 a semester, the $1,000 a semester was like $1 million to our family. So NYU was completely out of the picture. My mother convinced me, she's like, listen, they sent you the application, fill it out and, leave it to God. So I filled out the application, got all my recommendations, got my transcripts from Trinidad, filled it out. Then I got a financial aid package from NYU that had a bunch of fellowships and scholarships that I'd never applied for, because again, I knew nothing about how to go about applying for them. My family contribution for that first year was less than $1,000. So I was going to pay less than I would have been paying going to Baruch. So I attended NYU. So like I dropped the dream of being a pediatrician, but I thought, maybe a child psychiatrist. So freshman year, I took intro to psychology. Boy, did I hate it. There's no right or wrong answer. Like I said, logical brain. There's no right or wrong answer in psychology. It's which philosopher you're a student of. So didn't like that. If you're a student of Freud, you would describe behavior this way. If you were a student of Piaget, you describe it that way. Couldn't stand it. Now, while I was there, I met a fellow Trini, and he told me that he was going about to become an actuarian. And he said, with my advanced level math grade and how well I did, that I could actually take the first actuarial exam right now without studying and do well. So I thought about it and said, you know what? Okay, so I will do what I have to do to make money, because actuarians get paid very well. So I was on track to become an actuarian and decided that I do what I'm sorry.
The audience, tell people what an actuarian is.
Oh, so actuarians, they determine risk. So in simple terms, they determine when you're gonna die. So yeah, pretty much. They do all the calculations and then they send that to insurance companies and they determine how much your insurance policy will cost. So yes, I was gonna do actuarial science, very boring, as you can imagine. And I was gonna volunteer and work with kids in my free time. So I decided to major in math, majoring in math. And at NYU, the math and computer science departments were housed in the same building, the Courant Institute of Math, if I remember correctly. And one day I was there and the admin for computer science stopped me and, introduced herself, was talking to me and said, listen, have you thought about computer science? And I was like, well, not really. She's like, because there are so few women and so few Black people in it. So I said, okay, let me look into this computer science thing. Because when I was in school, I started in 92. Computers were not prolific. Everybody didn't have a desktop at home, right? To do any work, you had to live in the computer lab. So it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. So I looked into it and I saw a lot of courses counted both ways, because with my math major in computer science, I didn't want a double major because it meant I would have to stay longer. And I got transfer credits based on my advanced level results. So I was able, if I took a heavy load every semester I was at NYU, I could graduate in 3 years. And not wanting to stay longer, because every year that tuition went up, I decided to minor in computer science. So because they're so closely related, I did maybe 3 computing courses in my minor. So I would not say that I was proficient in computer science. Graduated. As luck would have it, I had a friend. So I like to tell my students, it's not who you know, but who knows you. So here's how this worked. My best friend's best friend worked for a computing firm and they were looking for an admin. So he shared my resume with them. So I interviewed for an admin position. During the interview, I made sure they understood that that was not where I was going to end up, that my dream was to be a programmer. They were fine with it. When I started, they sent me to learn COBOL, because like I said, I had like 3 computer science courses under my belt. And one of them was heavy coding. Well, intro to coding, I should say. So they sent me to learn COBOL, which is a legacy language. The company wrote software for brokerage houses like Goldman Sachs, Smith Barney. So I went and learned COBOL and started coding. I got promoted from an admin to a programmer, well, junior programmer. Very exciting for me, because at that point, when I jumped position, I got a $20,000 raise. And I couldn't imagine that one day I was making $20,000 less. The next day I was making $20,000 more. Beautiful.
Let us
Again,
pause there for the audience to see what education can do.
yes, it can. And I didn't even really do computer science in college, but this is what happened in the workplace. So then I was working as a programmer. And again, like I say, it's who knows you. There was a new faculty member. And as a faculty member, typically when you start at a new institution, you get a starter package. And that package includes funding for PhD students. So this new faculty member had funding for a PhD student. And so they were looking for one. So someone who knew that faculty member recommended me. I met with him. He liked me. He was at Auburn University. He said, come on down and visit. I visited. And just like that, I was accepted into Auburn University to do my master's PhD. They had a joint program, your master's PhD in computer science. Again, so it's called a backdoor entrance, which I don't really like because it sounds shady. But what it is that if you find a faculty member who wants you to attend that school, then you're in. So I had a provisional acceptance. I hadn't even done the GRE yet, and I was already accepted to Auburn. My provisional acceptance said I had to do the GRE within a year of starting at Auburn. So the morning that I moved to Auburn, I took GRE.
Are you kidding me?
Yes, I did. Went, took the GRE. It had just turned electronic. So that was really good. I could go. They said you could do it in one go or you could take a break. I was like, one go. I have a long drive. So I did it. I did it. Passed it well enough that Auburn didn't kick me out. And I went down to Auburn. And while there, I picked up my master's and PhD in computer science. And my research there was speech recognition and virtual agents. But that's when it was really early in the game.
Yes. Wow. What a story. Look, Kiana's reacting.
I now see it.
I said the same thing to myself. What a story. That is, I mean, when you're destined for something, the doors just open. That's what it sounds like to me.
Happen. But now let me ask you this, because some people may not know what a computer scientist does. And like there are different types. So if you could just give us a basic and then what your expertise is.
So typically computer scientists focus on software. And what is software? So software is that program that runs on practically any electronic device that you have. So Twitter, that's a software program. Okay, that's old school. TikTok, speaking to the young people. TikTok is a software program. Microsoft Office, software program. So typically computer scientists write software programs in general. Sometimes they work on improving, like they come up with algorithms that will again be applied to other software programs, but they might not be the ones actually writing the software. They can focus on coming up with the algorithms that make them more efficient, make them more usable. What else? Well, then computer engineers, but that's not a computer scientist. The computer engineers are the ones who work with the hardware, who actually work with the processors and the monitors and cameras and all that. It's all the other peripherals that go along with your computing device.
Pretty much the stuff you can touch, right?
Yes.
It's a way. And you used a term that maybe some people may not recognize because you talk about programming and you called COBOL a legacy language.
Yes.
What's a legacy language?
So a legacy language is an old, it's like just like the word legacy, it's an old language that's no longer used. And these older languages tend to be more, should I say, cryptic? So newer age languages tend to look a lot like the English language. The older languages like COBOL don't really look like English. So yes, it's considered old, and most companies have switched over from COBOL, but I did reach out to a friend who's still the one who got me the job at Sigma back then. And I asked them, are you still programming in COBOL? And they still are using COBOL on some of their systems because it's very expensive to port from one programming language to another. So I guess some companies are keeping whatever's on COBOL in COBOL. And he said they were also using like C# also. But yep, they're still programming in COBOL.
That's interesting. So now this, look, maybe a little off. When you said it's more different, more cryptic, so are the older languages more secure than the new languages?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're more secure. They're just, so when you write code, and you know what code is. So code are the instructions. So like I'm trying to pull back. So to get a computer to do anything, you have to give it instructions. And the instructions are called code. So when you write code, so the code then has to be translated into a language that the computer understands. And what the computer understands are bytes, ones and zeros. So there's something called a compiler and an interpreter that translates what you type, the instructions that you type, into bytecode. So back then, the compilers weren't as advanced. So it went from programming in bytecode, which is when you hear some really old people, not me, who say they programmed on punch cards, which is like, right, a plus or a minus, well, like a 0 or 1 on the punch cards. And actually a funny story, you've heard about a bug in your code. So way back when, so there's very famous, one of the first women in programming, actually, I think she was the author of the COBOL programming language, Rear Admiral Grace Hopper.
Grace Hopper created, I didn't know that.
I am more than sure that she is one of the creators of COBOL. And back then, with their computers consisted of switches, so on and off, representing the 1 and 0. And when one time a program wasn't working, it was an actual insect that got caught in one of the switches. So that's where a bug in your code comes from.
An actual bug. Okay.
It was an actual bug. So, right. So the older languages are so it advanced from 1s and 0s to some instructions and having to know registers in the memory. So the exact location where you're putting stuff. So there was like assembly is like that. And then COBOL was a little step up where there were a little more English terminology added. And so COBOL is in the hierarchy of different programming languages. And now, of course, one of the most popular ones are like Java and Go, which are really close to English.
I think a lot of people have heard of Java. So now at the University of North Carolina, you mentioned you have students. So what is your day like in your department?
So my typical days, like we said, I'm a teaching professor. So my major responsibility is teaching. So I teach 3 classes a semester. So basically my day starts off with actually going in and teaching a course. I'm also there in my office. I have office hours, which students don't utilize as much as they should. But those are the times where if you have questions about anything about the course material, that you come and you can have a one-on-one with me. I also conduct research. And you should, most students, because my little one knows what research is. Finding an answer, coming up with questions and finding answers to those questions and then coming up with more questions. So I probably don't have to explain what research is. So then some of my time is spent with research. I mentor students. I have meetings, a lot of committee meetings and research meetings. And yeah, I guess that's about it.
So let me ask you, okay, so when you talk about working with the students.
Mhm.
And do you recommend coursework to them, and are these students, are they undergraduates who are working on their BS in computer science, or yeah, what are their majors?
So our college has both BAs and BSs in computer science. You get a Bachelor of Arts or a Bachelor of Science. So I have students that are enrolled in my course. So they're learning a specific curriculum. So they come and ask questions about that. I'm also a faculty advisor where I meet with students once a semester to discuss what courses they need to take the next semester to fulfill the degree requirements, and also provide advice about how else they should be preparing themselves for the workforce or grad school, because it's not just going to class, doing the work, getting your A, but there are other things that you need to do to prepare yourself for the workforce.
Mhm.
Like you need to
Yes.
get an internship. I was like, I knew you were going to ask me.
Elaborate on that, because we're talking STEM careers. So what
Ye-
does a student
Need
need
to
to
do.
do to prepare themselves? And let's take a step back.
Okay.
What does a student need to do to get accepted into a computer science program, right? If that is a career path that they want to take.
So each university, each college has their own requirements. At UNCC, I believe if you just decide to be a computer science major, if you just declare it, then we accept you. We have no requirements. There is the thought that you need to be good at math to do well in computer science. But there are now branches of computer science that you don't really need math. And I know
when I was growing up, just kidding, go on.
there are.
Need
There's
math for
API.
computer science anymore. That's like,
So while the degree will still require some, so like I said, we have a BA and a BS. Our BA, we require less math than the Bachelor of Science, because a science degree is just expected that you know a little more math. And what was my train of thought? BABS, being good at math. And one thing that I was surprising to me when I migrated, was so many people are like, oh my God, I can't do math. I hate math. Math is so hard.
yes.
That is not a perception of young people in the Caribbean. Maybe it's because we have less resources, but everybody does math. And it's not a male-dominated thing. Like I said, so in the Caribbean, I went to all-girls school until I left. So my school was all girls, all intelligent, all motivated, all competitive, and we all did math. The A-levels, like I mentioned, the A-level exam, a C is a pass, but most people just get C's, because like I said, this comes from Cambridge. It's a really difficult exam. In my class, we had like 33 students who did that A-level math. Half of us got A's. Everybody passed with a C or higher, but half, which is unheard of, got A's. So it was very surprising when I moved here to hear math is hard, girls don't do math. That is just not said, and everybody's just expected to do it, and you do it. So I think everybody can do math. Art now, I don't think everybody can do.
Yes,
Hi, Judy.
yes, Judy. Exactly. You didn't have that hanging over your head when
Not
you
at all.
came here. You didn't have that belief system baked into you that girls don't do math. Math is hard.
And that math is hard and you can't
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
Didn't have it.
You just soared, actuary all the way over to.
Just continue doing it. Now, while not everybody did math, right? Because we were a large school. So we had the science students, the business students, the art students. And by arts, we mean those who do the languages. Still, everybody had to do math. Like at O levels, math was required of everybody. It was non-negotiable. So I think that's really interesting. And at one time I wanted to try to study to see if we could change that perception, right? But it's so ingrained and deep rooted in American culture that I'm not sure how to go about, like you have to get the babies.
I was gonna say, and anybody feel free to chime in. I think, man, it's third grade is too late, I would say.
Definitely. Definitely. Because I hear it so early, so early. These little girls are like, I can't do math. It's like, of course you can. Everybody can do math.
Yes. Okay, so we talked about the student preparation part.
Right. All
Now,
right. So,
career part, once they're in your hands.
right. So once you're in, right,
Mhm.
you of course go to class and do your work, but you need to network. You need to get to know your professors because you're going to need a recommendation letter. You need to get to know your colleagues. You never know when you're sitting next to a student whose father is the VP in a bank, and when you're looking to get a job, that they just need to say, hey, Dad, remember so and so. I've had that in my class. So I taught for quite a few years a computing professionals course, which was, we offered it to freshmen, and it was to teach you how to be a computing professional, what you needed to prepare. So many times I would talk about these different opportunities. Internships are very important. You need to get an internship under your belt before you graduate. Maybe like, how am I going to get an internship? Employers know when you're interviewing that if you're a junior, they know you only know so much, right? First off, they know you only know so much. They're prepared to teach you on the job. What gets you hired into those internships? Personality.
Yes.
So I'm sharing a lot of info. Yeah, I'm digressing. So the internships,
Oh.
because this is another thread. Because like I said, I teach the computing professionals. So I'm always mentoring these students on how to get their foot in the door.
Mhm.
Career fairs, go to them. Go to them often, because what gets you that second interview is your personality, is eye contact. Can you communicate with the recruiter? Do you have a firm handshake? Do you have that elevator pitch prepared, ready to deliver confidently? So many times when I've told students, and go even though you're not looking for a job, because you never know. The majority of students that are forced to go when they had nothing to lose get that second interview. And I believe it's because they have nothing to lose, so they're relaxed and they're more themselves. So that's what gets their foot in the door.
Right.
So get to know your colleagues. Yes. So when I be sharing, so in Charlotte, we have all the bank headquarters. So Bank of America, Wells Fargo. So they play a big part in hiring our students. They have a lot of internship programs. So whenever I'm introducing it to the students, then I have the students say, by the way, my uncle is the one who makes the final decision and who gets it. And so I'm like, right there.
In your class.
Right there. Not to mention, I've also done where there is this big internship program where one student that I knew got in. I introduced her to another student. She applied. That student was able to help her with the interview process. She got in. When she got, then another student came. So I would be sharing this, but he'd be like, I'm interviewing. I'd be like, I'll put you onto this. And I'd put her onto that student and they get it. And then I'm like, now I think the banks need to give me a finder's fee, because I have a good thread of at least 5 to 6 students deep, where the first one, she is now like a vice president.
Oh my.
Graduated like 4 years ago. No, she's really a superstar. Alrighty, so network with your colleagues, with faculty, get an internship, or get into undergraduate research. If you want to go to grad school, you need to get research experience. You also need to figure out if you like research, because not research isn't for everybody. And if it's not for you, right now, I don't think there are any professional PhDs in computer science, right? Right now, you have to do research if you're going to get a PhD in computer science. So
Interesting.
get the experience and figure out if you like it or not.
Bravo.
What else? And don't focus on just the GPA, and be engaged. Join student organizations, right? Get engaged with your college on the college campus. Employers like to see that you're not just a go to school, do my work, and that's it. You have to be passionate about something. And never in an interview when they ask you, what are you interested in? Say everything. Never say everything. You have to be passionate about something and something specific. You can't be passionate about everything.
I love it. Well, you have demonstrated tonight that the path to a career in computer science is not necessarily a straight one.
No, it's not.
There are twists and turns and mamas who tell you to fill out applications that you don't think you should fill out.
Do it. Do it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you can, even if you did not major in computer science in your bachelor's, still get into it in grad school.
I think you demonstrated, because what was your undergrad major? What was
Math.
your
So my major was math, my minor was computer science. Like I said, I did 3 computer science courses. One, I learned Turbo Pascal, so that was the introductory programming course. One was a multimedia course, where, I just did a project. I don't even remember what the third one was. That's how, and the rest were all math courses that counted both ways. And I also want to mention that right now, computer science is so interdisciplinary. So I tell my students when I'm trying to recruit them, I was like, tell me what you're interested in, and I'll tell you how computer science is related to whatever you're interested in. Music. Come on. Right? Art. I mean, anything. Architecture. I'm now sitting on a committee where a student is getting a joint degree with architecture and computer science, a master's degree. And she's looking at, I forget what, it was a beautiful name too, some type of building where how you build is based on the climate and the culture of where you are. So they pick materials that are native to where you are. You look at the climate. I forget the type of building. And I'm like, I know nothing about it. She's like, yes, but I want to create this interface that computer scientists can use to help them figure out what materials they need, the designs and stuff. It's like, I can help you with that. But I can help you with the user-face design. But everything else, I'm fascinated. I love to read about it, but I can't help you with. So anything you're interested in today, because computing is so ubiquitous, it's everywhere. We can tie it in computer science, and it's not going anywhere.
No, not at all. So the mainframe may go away, but no.
Right.
Cloud.
Right.
But this has been wonderful. I mean, do you have any more advice? We're going to open up if anyone wants to ask a question. And Kiana's going to share some actual career information that people might be able to get scholarships or some funding, or stay tuned.
I would just say, don't be intimidated. It's for everybody. Everybody can find their place in computing. Whatever it is you're interested in, you can find a place in computer science. So don't stay and prevent yourself based on fear to not, take that challenge, to pursue that avenue, because it's very lucrative. I mean, it's a very lucrative career. And like I said, it's completely sustainable. Computer science is not going anywhere.
I would like you to talk about your NSF grant that you.
So yes, with some colleagues. So I see Dr. Marshall's on our webinar here with Dr. Marshall, Dr. Mejias, and Dr. Stooks at Johnson C. Smith. And it was a joint proposal. So we also have Dr. Washington at Howard University, but she has her own portion. we propose coming up with this, we call it BRSN, Black Research Support Network, where Black faculty have come together to provide support for undergraduate students to encourage them to pursue undergraduate research in computer science by addressing all of the racial barriers that are institutionalized also, helping them address them because we have all lived it ourselves. And so we're here not only to support the undergraduate students, but what's happening is that we're also supporting ourselves and supporting faculty, and hopefully we'll eventually be supporting grad students, masters and PhD. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yes, and I just want to emphasize that is a National Science Foundation grant that you have been awarded. Congratulations to you and Dr. Marshall, who is here
Thank
with
you.
us. And so Kiana's going to share some, like I said, some routes of possible funding and further information. And for our participants, we have a nice booklet for you that we created around our webinars. And we also have a brief survey that we'd love you to fill out. It's just a couple of questions, you know, you're scientists, so there you go.
It's true.
So Kiana just put that survey in the chat. Oh, you are an academic. Now you said we love surveys. Bravo, bravo.
Couldn't help it.
I love it. I love it. So Kiana, yes, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk about some resources.
Thank you. What an amazing conversation, by the way. I really enjoyed hearing about your story and also about the things that you do to help your students prepare for a career. So thank you. Just wanted to say that. But so since you are based in North Carolina, I did a little research for our other participants that are in North Carolina. And this is information because I know you all are in your careers, but this is information that you can share with your friends and family, anybody that's interested in going back to school or changing their career, going into the computer science field. So ncworks.gov, that's your the state employment resource that you all have. And I bring this up because there is a federal grant called the WIOA grant. It's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. This is a grant that allows adults to go back to school and gain, it's a scholarship. So, in undergrad, you can get Pell Grant. But if you've already, once you use your Pell Grant, there's no more. But you can use WIOA. And that's for adults who are unemployed or underemployed or looking to make a career change. And so you can go to ncworks.gov and find the educational programs and providers that will that are working in conjunction with the WIOA grant. And so with WIOA, the goal is to get you back employed. And so the programs are 2 years or less, but don't be mistaken, 2 years is, plenty of enough time for you to earn a decent amount of money. And so there are short-term programs that can put you in the six figures real quick. So NCWorks is, I think, a great resource for you to go to. You can go there and also find the career center that is closest to you, because you do have to go through a screening process to be a part of the WIOA program. But that is the NCWorks, and the career centers is kind of the avenue that you have to go through in order to obtain the funding to go back to school for this scholarship. And when I tell you they pay for everything, they cover books, tuition. This may not be applicable for computer science, but like any uniforms that are necessary. I know during COVID, they also were providing, the center I was at was providing like gas cards, PPE, gift cards. So they were providing money every month for you to buy mask and hand sanitizer, the gas money to get to class and things like that. And also any required exams that you would need to be considered employable in that particular field, they will cover that exam, license. I mean, it covers a lot. And the total amount kind of varies. And of course, like the program years, they change, but for the most part, it's a very, very helpful program. You don't have to worry about student loan debt because that is one of, the biggest issues that we have right now in America, with people wanting to, make a better lifestyle for themselves and for their family to increase their education. But the concern is having debt. And so with this YO program, that is scholarship money that's out there. You do have to apply, but it's not normally it's not an essay. It's more of just kind of like a qualification, and it's geared toward, lower income applicants and applicants that are, currently unemployed. So that is the resource for North Carolina. I also included the Employ Florida or the Florida resources because TurnUp is based in Florida. So that is for us as well. And so I just wanted to kind of call out a couple of programs that I found on the NC Works website that are within the WIOA program. They have AWS certification program, Android software development, full stack Java. We talked about Java earlier. Full stack Java development certification, computer programming. So there's a lot. And I actually did come across a course that it's a UNCC actually has a course that coincides with the scholarship money that you all can, that is available. So I was just, looking around because I know they usually do kind of like, the little small programs, private colleges, but sometimes they do, collaborate with universities as well. So that was cool. On the NC Works website, I also did find private scholarships. So if you did want to get a 4-year degree, there are some scholarships that you can find on the NC Works website. For instance, there's a Women in Computing scholarship. So that's geared toward women who want to go into the computing or computer science field. There's also a Lockheed Martin STEM scholarship out there. And so, of course, there are different, you have to read the qualifications and the requirements. But yes, I found that, like I said, the NC Works website is very, very, it's a wealth of information when it comes to resources out there for you to make that career change or to even up level your skills, because with computer science as well, there's a lot of different certifications that you can have and specialties that you can have. So you might just want to gain another skill that will make you make you a better candidate for a position that you're going for. And so you may be able to just, get in that WIOA program, take that course that might, be a month or two, and get that $20,000 raise, just like Dr. Wilson got back in the day. So.
And I also want to add, I forgot to mention that as a US citizen, if you're interested in getting a PhD in computer science, you should not be paying for it. I did not pay for my master's PhD. In fact, they paid me to go to school. I paid not one dime, but I got paid a monthly stipend. So if you're interested, reach out. I should have shared my contact information. Really easy. My name, Dale Marie, no dash, .wilson @uncc.edu.
Did you hear that, folks? She said you should be paid to go to school. Now, undergrads, I don't know about y'all, but I know grad school, they'll pay for grad school. You got
Now, there are scholarships for undergrad, and that's another thing. Look at your college, your university, once you get in, they have so many scholarships that students do not apply for.
Mhm.
Just go to the
Okay.
websites, go to every organization that's in the university. They'll have their own specialized scholarship. So there are resources for money, but grad school, PhD, computer science should be free.
Yes. Yes. And that's in fact how she and I met. So, and I have a PhD, but not in computer science. But let me tell you, you hang out with them, you can travel the world. So go to the conferences as well is my suggestion to everyone. So we're gonna try to load these resources one more time, and if not,
I am working on it. I saw the chat and I was like, I wonder what's in there, but I was talking, so I didn't want to.
oh no, don't worry about it because you verbalized it.
I'm trying to get it back up there. I'm not sure. Every time I try to share it.
I know it was working. Of course it worked. Now see, there you go, technology people.
Right.
Not always reliable.
And
But I
for
think
those-
you did an excellent job presenting, Kiana, especially the tie-in with that scholarship that's
Mhm.
available through career services that may actually, you can get some funding to go to the very school that Dr. Wilson is at. It just doesn't want to convert over to the
See, it's
main.
the Mac. I am not Mac savvy at all.
But you all still can't see.
Dr.
So
Najjar can probably help it. Yeah.
It looks like it's trying to load.
Give me Windows anytime.
See, I'm a Mac girl. Yes, it's, look, there we go.
There it is.
yikes.
Tenacity, there's our resources.
I'm so sorry.
No problem. Yeah,
But
and
yes, one thing I didn't mention was once we send you out a thank you email, with it will be the STEM career booklet, which will include more about our STEM series that I talked about earlier, and then some of the also the resources that I talked about as well. So you'll be able to take that, share it. It's a PDF. So
all right. Well, thank everyone for coming, and we're going to stop recording. And follow us on social media. I got to get better at that. Follow us on social media. Turn up, turn out, vote. Give us a follow. Thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Del
Thank
Marie.
you.
I know a lot more about you now.
Right. Maybe too much, huh?
Yeah.